Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Rob Murray. I'm here as always with managing editor Joe Spear. And what do we got to talk about this week, Joe? There's some hockey going on.
Welcome back. Yes, hockey all over our state high school hockey tournament. One of my favorite things to watch. Our friend Brian Arla, his team, Hibbing Chisholm, had a big win last night. They're in it for the first time in a long time. So it's kind of fun to watch that. There seem to be some mismatches from early games I've seen.
Is that the Lumberjacks?
Hibbing, do they still call them the Lumberjacks?
I don't know.
What was Chisholm called? Because Chisholm is in there as well.
Don't know.
It's a combined thing. And anyway, that's exciting. A lot of people watching that. But our own Mavericks are playing their first round of the conference playoffs this week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if needed. It's a 2 out of 3 series, and they've got Lake Superior State, which should win. But as we've talked about before, in this league, you can lose to anybody. You can lose to a team that has 5 wins if you're not on your game and they smell blood, and they'll, give these teams that block 30, 40 shots a game 1 goal a lead, and it's really tough.
Well, didn't they lose to Lake Superior State once this year?
I feel like they might have lost once, but I think there was one series where we went up there and swept them. If my hockey memory is correct, which is not always the case.
Well, you were a goalie, so.
Well, yeah, we're going to bring that up again. Okay. Hockey. Fun watching. You had an interesting story on FuzzTalk Radio. Fuzzy, the guy who's been doing that for 15 years?
Yep, 15 years. Justin Fosnot. Anybody in this community who's into the music scene knows who Justin is, better known as Fuzzy. He's a longtime music lover. He used to book shows. He was in bands. And he had this creation of his called FuzzTalk Radio, which was primarily a local music internet radio station. And he kept that going basically at his own out-of-pocket cost for 15 years.
Eclectic music, right? All the genres.
Yes, he was a big proponent of appreciation of all genres. He was a big rap fan, but he had metal music on there. He had folk music. He had anything that was done locally. If he had a digital copy of it, it was going to be on FuzzTalk Radio. So that was pretty cool. I don't think he had a huge listenership, but that's okay. I mean, it was kind of a niche thing as well, but there was a following, a loyal following, and a lot of folks in the scene knew what it was and respected it and appreciated what he was doing, and he was just he was ready to move on.
Yeah, ready to move on, and he had some his story, part of his personal story. His struggles were interesting too. Mm-hmm. Battled some addictions, yep. And yet found a way to do these things to give back to the community, which is always cool. I always want to remind readers that the newspaper is not so much about us, about writers and reporters. It's about people in your community whose stories we tell. It's about them. It's about you. So when you think of subscribing or supporting local journalism, think about those folks whose stories we are telling. And we're able to tell those stories because we have a sponsor for this podcast. Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union is sponsoring this podcast, and some other things like our music podcast and our knowledge and events series. So the folks down there are supporting the community stories we're talking about. We thank them very much. But yeah, Fuzzy was a great story, and I see him around, and he's a good guy, and a great community story that we're happy to bring you from time to time. We had a little ire on the Facebook pages lately because of a story Mark Fishnick, again, unearthed on the City Beat. And again, longtime reporters can find these things. Newbies and podcasters that are not news podcasters like us, or bloggers, let's say, don't find them. We found out the huge project on Riverfront Drive, huge streetscaping project, new street, wider streets, nice sidewalks now, multi-million-dollar project, but I don't know if I want to say if it's fair that they forgot about the lights, but they put in highway lights, the big, tall ones. Do they call them Cobra lights?
Seems like it might have been an oversight of some kind.
Yeah, but I think Riverfront had the decorative lights before they did the project. Am I right?
I don't know about that.
I think they did. And anyway, we want decorative lights, which is reasonable, but it's going to take $700,000 to do it. Now, they're not going to waste the lights they did put in, which are brand new. They're going to save them and replace as they need around other parts of Mankato that use highway lights. But it was first real kind of, I don't want to say mistake or a light bulb moment that people think the city leaders should have thought about. And, of course, hell hath no fury like our Facebook users and readers. So they went after it pretty high and hard and weren't taking it. And we had one letter writer, I think, at least. And so it goes.
I think it's fair for people to expect that kind of a thing not to be an oversight. I mean, the lighting on the street is pretty much a primary concern if you're going to redo the street, right?
Well, and everybody makes mistakes, as
True.
we can attest to at this newspaper. I tell people,
we
they,
certainly
you
can.
really messed up that headline. And I tell them, 3 people looked at that and didn't catch it, you know. So, and I was thinking the Old Town businesses would have, like, brought it up, you know, because they had many public meetings on this, many discussions, handouts, reports.
They may not have been
drawings.
They may not have been shown the lighting though.
Well,
The exact lighting they were
But
getting.
if you're an Old Town business owner, you would think of the lighting, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Probably just more worried about how much they have to.
Maybe
if they
maybe
can
so.
survive as a business throughout this major upheaval.
But everybody makes mistakes. This does not appear to be a super costly one. They're going to reuse the lights. They're going to replace. There's going to be some expense in putting the new ones in, obviously. But I think it's appropriate for the work they did to make that area, you know, again, friendly looking and nice. They call it streetscaping.
Yeah.
So
It makes sense to me to have it look like a place you'd want to go down and
walk around.
hang out. And I think that's the kind of thing that you can't put a dollar figure on that, but it certainly matters. And I think people certainly, if given the choice, would want the lighting that looks nicer.
And there are a lot of cool shops down there now, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you can spend a good afternoon or whatever checking out all the unique shops that you don't find at the mall, you don't find elsewhere.
Yep.
So it's really been developing, and we know, there's some eating and drinking places. Wine Cafe, of course, is very popular in that part of town. Oleander is becoming a popular place. I've been down there a couple Friday nights with the Lost Walleyes and the City Mouse people, and they're having bands almost every Friday night, it seems like, and they're getting a good crowd. I keep calling it the iconic Oleander, but it's an old bar, and it's kind of cool. You can talk about the tin ceilings or whatever. So Old Town's got a lot going for it. Let's get some lighting. Sounds good. Another redevelopment. They're studying the Rapidan Dam again. That's a popular topic, and it's MSU and some other groups. They're studying the changing of the river since the change in the dam, since the dam breach, and what is happening and what that means for rebuilding. And they're going to make a report to Blue Earth County, right? But in order to do this, they need data and they need tons of information and topographical photos. So they had this huge drone out there that looked like,
It's a car.
A car, yeah, it was the size of a car, and it looks like the ones you see in the, action adventure movies that are shooting stuff down and, being weaponized. But it was a huge drone, and it was taking photographs of every inch of the topography, so it could come up with this map that's going to be useful for the county and rebuilding and how the river is going to change. And so it's cool. We're getting some information. Love to see the river become a kind of a recreational whitewater, restore the fishing kind of thing. So that was a fun story to watch.
You want to do the full sponsor read? Do we have that verbiage handy? Probably not.
I don't, because my computer is down. But I know Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union serves many counties in the area. Blue Earth, Nicollet, Brown, I believe Watonwan for sure, Sibley, and they've been doing business for almost 100 years, and happily do business with folks in the area. How's that for an ad lib?
It's a good place to go. You know, when Brian Arlo was here, I kind of put him on the spot to see if he ever banked there, and luckily he had, and I have as well. One of our car loans was from that place.
Same here.
They're really,
they take out ads in our paper, and I support people who do that. Try to, and they had some good interest rates. So last time I had a car loan, I went there also, it's great. Blizzard. We had a blizzard. Haven't had many this year. Didn't look like it caused a lot of mayhem, and especially since the weather warmed up and the streets were pretty much down to the pavement again.
Well, so there was certainly some mayhem here. The power went out
Correct.
in our press. We couldn't run the press on the first day of our newly redesigned newspaper.
Newly redesigned newspaper. We should talk about that and explain that to people a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think there's been a time when we have, in my history, I know we've had to take the paper to our off-site location, Madelia, when something didn't work with us, but the power was out. And as you and I know, we were working late that night, just getting the last pages to the press, and would have been fine if that storm hadn't hit and the power hadn't gone out. And so what we did was we still printed the paper the next day and sent it out with today's paper. So people should have gotten both editions. But yes, it was our first day at our Indiana Design Center. It's a company, part of our company. They handle production of pages. They don't decide content. We give them all that. It's all the same paper. It's all the same content. Nobody touches our content. They just simply produce the pages, and they send them back to our press to be printed here. So, but our design center are experts in design, and they have a 20-person hub, as they call it, and they design 20 papers a day. And they're very good, and they're very trained and skilled at what looks good in a paper, the spacing, the leading we call, the white space, what makes a newspaper really readable. And I already got a compliment from one of our readers saying
as did I.
It's much easier to read, and it's easier to. It looks better. It looks great.
It does. It does. I think we were proud of the old design, but I think we can all agree that this one looks nicer.
Yeah, it's just I think it's crisper, and it's a better use of white space perhaps. The typography is more drawing you in, and there's little pieces of what we used to call points of entry in a newspaper. When you see a headline, that's a point of entry. So do you want to go and read that story? A cut line is a point of entry. A photo is a point of entry. So we want to get as many points of entry as you can on a newspaper to get people. The goal is to get people to spend time with it, right, and to read it. And we do surveys every couple of years how much time people spend with the Free Press, and it's substantial. It's higher than industry averages. Some people spend hour or more on a newspaper. That's a lot of time to spend. Some people read it cover to cover. I still know people who do that, which takes about 2 hours probably. But then there's a good swath of people that spend half an hour with it, catch up on the sports, whatever you need to do. So we've got that going for us, and it's been going smoothly. It takes some of the work off the local efforts, myself and Rob and a few other people who were designing the paper since January when we had some staff leave and such. So it's good to hand it off to the experts, and hopefully Rob and I will be able to get back to doing some journalism and not spending so much time on the production part of it. So,
and just to reiterate, you're not going to get anything. It's all the same content we've been giving you for years and years. It's just going to look different, hopefully better.
Yes, different and better. So we want to reiterate that. We have a couple of notes on our knowledge and lecture series. The next one will be March 18th, and we are going to have President Annette Parker from SCC, South Central College, come and speak about today's labor force, today's jobs. What kind of jobs are out there? What are they doing to help people, train people for jobs? It'll be a real interesting discussion, I think, because we all spend a lot of time in our jobs, right? It consumes 2/3 of our life or 1/3 of our life. So I always am curious and interested to hear what new programs SCC is coming up with. because they do a good job at trying to hear what businesses need and then train some people for that market. And sometimes you don't even need a degree. You just need a certificate or some training. But I'm always impressed with how they work well with the local employers and seem to, and the local employers donate to their program and give them equipment. And it works well both ways. So she's on March 18th. This Tuesday night, 6 o'clock at the Free Press building. And then April 15th, I believe it's tax day, we did get Charlie Leverage from the Carnegie Arts Center to come back, and we had to cancel his appearance because of that wicked winter storm we had that night in the cold weather. Where they were shutting things down, so we didn't want to make people come out into that awful weather and come. So we rescheduled him to April, and so we got a couple lined up. That those are free events. Anybody can come and come and hear the discussion and talk with your neighbors. It's fun.
All right.
I don't know if we have a lot else to talk about. I'm
That's
looking down my list.
We'll probably wrap it up here.
We appreciate you listening to the podcast. And again, kudos to our sponsor, Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, for supporting this. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.